The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
Well, this week on the Hub, we have, let's see, 1, 2 newcomers and 3 incumbents here looking to lead in the 38th Guam Legislature. All you have to do to get involved is register and show up to the polls on November 5th. Your livelihood depends on it, period. Hafa Adai and welcome to the Hub. I'm Nick Delgado. 25 candidates are running to be your senator in the 38th Guam Legislature. Only 15 will make it to lead. This week we've got on the Democrat ballot incumbent Sabina Perez, and under the Republican ballot we have incumbents Frank Blas Jr. and Chris Duenas, along with newcomers Sean Gumatautau and William Payne. Hafa Adai candidates.
Hafa Adai.
So let's get to it. For the first round, each candidate here gets 60 seconds to speak to you, the voters. Tell them a little bit about each of you. But first, a pair of unsolved homicides could be added to the list of cold cases filed with the Guam Police Department. Both cases unfolding just last month. One man was found dead in a burning home in Dededo. Days later, another man is found dead in Jigo. Authorities confirming both homicide investigations, but remain tight-lipped over whether we should be concerned if a killer is on the loose. Is it about protecting the integrity of the investigation or a complete lack of transparency? So candidates, in 10 seconds, I just want to get your quick thoughts on this, and I'll let you decide who goes first.
I think I can go first with regard to the investigations. When you've got homicides so close together, it takes a lot of resources. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to give the police department enough time to be able to muster the resources to be able to investigate them properly.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Duenas?
Yeah, I also believe that, we're just really in a time, unfortunately, where crime is just so rampant right now. Resources are stretched extremely. Of course, these have to be the top priorities because, homicides is something that affects our families, and we got to get justice for those families. And so put the emphasis there, but we're really stretched thin right now with the opioid epidemic.
All right, Mr. Payne.
With the homicides investigations, I feel that our police force or detectives lack the total experience because they're pretty young and pretty new to the police system. We need help from the Justice Department. They should get help. They should get help and bring them in here so that our force can have the proper training and techniques to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gumatautau.
It's absolutely about time. I mean, with every minute and every hour that they're not able to get who might be responsible for this is another minute or a series of times where they're really, the whole community is just wondering what is going to happen next. So we just got to allow GPD to do their job and work with all the rest of the law enforcement to make it so.
Okay. Senator?
I agree with my colleagues that there's perhaps a lapse in resources, especially with the medical examiner not being here, as well as, if there is a true concern about, whether there's issues, there's also, we can do an audit. There's also the option for audits.
All great suggestions and options. Thank you so much, candidates, for your responses. So that's our icebreaker round. Now to the introduction. Again, each of you getting 60 seconds here to talk to the viewers. And we'll start with Senator Duenas. 60 seconds on the clock. You can look into the camera right over here.
Thank you very much, Nick, and Hafa Adai to the people of Guam. For 16 years, I served in the private sector, and now I've put in 22 years serving the people of Guam as a senator and a director in various departments. I guess I'm an old man, getting up there in age anyways. It's been my honor and my privilege, really, to serve in the private sector and understand what makes Guam work. Businesses, making sure that we can bring in tax revenue, and then working in our government to try to make sure that there's accountability and efficiency, and also making sure that we protect our island. Legislation I've introduced, like the Invasive Species Council, the $20 million returned to the Department of Education to make sure that the pay raises that were given, then we put the money back to make sure that we could fix our schools and maintain our schools. Expanding affordable housing opportunities for the people of Guam through signature legislation, bringing in new technology. These are just a few things that I've done, and I'm asking you now if you would continue to allow me to serve you in the 38th Guam legislature. I'm Chris Duenas, and I'm number 8 on the Republican side of the ballot.
Thank you, Senator. Candidate Payne.
Buenas, todo hamdu, toto Guam. I spent 32 years of my life in the federal system. I'm a federal retiree. I'm asking all the federal retirees and the federal workers, employees, please give me a vote to serve you and to serve the island. I have gained all this experience through all these years. I have helped build Guam Major League. We started Guam National Golf Federation, and I'm a totally community-oriented person. Please, if elected, I would help restore or introduce legislation, transparency, and accountability to the government. We need to. We need to protect our assets, and as we move ahead, we need to protect what's left for the next generations. Thank you. I am Bill Payne, number 12 on the Republican ballot. Just Marcy.
Thank you. Candidate Gumatauto.
Well, first off, thank you, KUAM, for the opportunity to be here. I'm bringing to this particular race 13 years of broadcast television experience, a majority of it right here on the set here at KUAM. Secondly, it's my 10 years of senior level government experience from the Office of the Governor of Guam to the Judiciary of Guam. And then probably most importantly is my now just a couple of months ago, 12 years of small business experience to a branch that really we need to be able to help and create common sense legislation that'll serve not just one group, but all of the people of Guam. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to be with you all and share my ideas today.
Thank you. Senator Perez.
Hafa my name is Sabina Perez, familia Ngoza Cabeza. I'm an incumbent senator since the 35th Guam legislature, where I passed over 40 laws to protect the health of our people and environment, to increase transparency and accountability in how the government spends vital taxpayers' dollars through procurement reform. I expanded ethics training for all government employees, as well as modernize our animal welfare law through the PAWS Act, as well as address the vape epidemic amongst our youth, amongst other things. I am committed to using my diverse experience as a medical technologist, diabetes researcher, science teacher, and now senator to strengthen our economy, address the high cost of living, increase childhood literacy, workforce development, affordable housing, food security, amongst many other things. I humbly ask for your support. Please vote Sabina Perez, number 10 on the Democratic ticket to Duas Masi.
Thank you. Senator Blas.
No, thank you, Nick, and thank you to KUAM for giving us the opportunity to be here. Hafa Day, my name is Frank Blas Jr., currently senator with the 37th Guam Legislature. Spent most of my life in public service, helping the people of Guam in many aspects. I started off as a law enforcement officer with the Guam Police Department, also served as an adjunct professor with GCC, and then as the Homeland Security Advisor for Guam prior to becoming a senator. I also have delved into the private sector as an insurance salesman and broker, as well as president of our family company. I came back into the political arena because our island was experiencing some very harsh times and hard times as a result of the pandemic, and now as a result of many other things that are going on that are threatening the livelihood and the bloodline of our economy and of our life. And I want to continue to do that and work with you in being able to rebuild a more stronger and a resilient Guam. My name is Frank Blas Jr., number 13 on the Republican side of the ballot. Thank you.
Candidates, thank you so much for speaking to our viewers and to the voters. Your Decision 2024 election show continues with questions for the candidates after this break. You're watching The Hub.
The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam. The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
Welcome back to your Decision 2024 election show, The Hub. Now, each candidate will be given 30 seconds each to answer the questions in this round, and we're going to start with Candidate Payne for the first question. What reforms will you advocate for to ensure the public funds are used efficiently and government operations are conducted with full transparency?
I would hold the governor and the government totally responsible, especially the administrators, for how they plan, use, and train their personnel in the functions of the government. They need to have the proper people and not politicians running the government. That's what I'll do. I'll support audits and hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gumatauto.
I think what it has to start with is really, it has to go right back to the agencies, and they have to be accountable for first. and their staffing and everyone. It is training, but it's also incumbent on every one of them to speak up to their directors and say, hey, this is what we need to do. In terms of the reforms, it could be maybe a lessening of days. It forces everyone to go down a road of paying attention to when certain things are due, or maybe when hearings are done. So maybe it could be a reduction in days.
Okay. Senator?
Yes, so thank you for the question. I've passed several legislation to do just that. So increasing transparency in our laws and accountability in our laws when it comes to procurement. So there, for instance, the disclosure law, before it didn't have anything about conflict of interest, and now it does. And so we want to make sure that those laws are actually implemented to its fullest. And I do want to basically advocate for audits as well to ensure these procurement laws are being followed. The other thing that's really needed in procurement is training. And so that's something we need to follow through with. So, Masi.
Thank you. Senator Blas?
No, thank you. I very simply, what you want to be able to do as taxpayers is know where your money is being spent and how it's being spent. And so one of the things that I've always advocated for, and I will continue to advocate, I've had legislation, hasn't been heard on the floor yet, to be able to provide performance measures within the agencies. How is your money being spent? How are you going to spend it? And what kind of measures, what are those milestones that we can anticipate that we're going to be able to gain as a result of spending your tax money?
All right. Senator Duenas?
Expanding on what Senator Blas was saying, I completely agree with that. Performance-based budgeting. Performance-based budgeting basically in a lot of ways says you're the agency, you start with zero. Work from there and tell us why you need the resources to run and do your function and provide for your mandate. The other thing is, I really don't like that we come down to crunch time just before we pass the budget, and we seem to be stacking, these hearings on top of one another. The governor gives us the budget in January. We should start debating and hearing agencies out in February and not be at crunch time by the time August comes around. We need more hearings, and we need these agencies to show us why they need the resources and why they need our tax dollars.
Okay. Thank you, candidates, for your responses to that question. For this next question, we'll start with candidate Gumatauto. The high cost of living in Guam, particularly the rising cost of housing, is a significant concern for residents. What initiatives do you propose to address the affordable housing crisis and reduce the financial burden on families?
Well, we have to really focus primarily on availability of these. Land right now is tight. We have to find ways to use either land trust properties or other parts of our government, maybe incentivize using some of the monies with the Guam Housing Corporation to leverage those funds for maybe USDA types of programs, so to allow more and more people to either to get that down payment on a home, or to in fact really to buy. And also we got to work with the Land Trust Commission to be able to get properties available for folks.
Okay. Senator Perez?
Thank you. In addition to that, I think it's really important to not only increasing the housing stock, but to ensure that what we're doing is it has to remain affordable. So when you hear the experts, it says that they say it's not enough just to increase housing stock. The way we can do that is to look for, federal assistance, working with our nonprofit partners to build these units that can remain affordable. The other thing that I would like to advocate for is building within urban centers that already have infrastructure. So that reduces the cost of having to build sewer, water hookups, power. So already, labor is a big issue. So we need to address lowering the cost of building.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Blas?
Well, first off, our land mass is finite, and our location, we're isolated. So we've got a number of different things going against us, and what we need to do is be able to look at the resources that we've got and look at the subject matter experts. We've got individuals that are on Guam that know how to be able to build houses at an affordable rate. Let's have a conversation with them and give them the opportunity to help us to build basically an infrastructure and a way to be able to keep costs down, most especially in the area of housing.
Okay. Senator Duenas?
I've introduced legislation to make sure you can use the property you have, and also to be able to create opportunities with additional dwelling units on your property. But Nick, I think one of the biggest things right now is we need to work with our congressperson who's elected and get to Washington right away to make sure that we have that labor that's inside the fence and the opportunities outside the fence as well. Right now, it really is labor and materials that's just driving the cost astronomically, as well as interest rates. But if we can get labor, Trades Academy is doing a good job. but it's just too massive in terms of the labor we need to be able to bring costs down, and we need to do that. What's good for inside the fence should be good for outside the fence.
Okay. Candidate Payne.
The high cost of the mortgage rates right now does not qualify most of our island population, the workers. What government should do on Guam is control the rental amount. Everybody's maximizing at $2,500. How can these startup families rent when they cannot even afford a car? They should look into it and put a control on the rental cost for people to start up first before they approach buying a home with land. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, so much for your responses to that question. Keep it locked here to your Decision 2024 election show. Time for another break. This is The Hub.
The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam. The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
Welcome back to your Decision 2024 show, The Hub. Candidates, you each will get 30 seconds again for this round to answer after hearing a question from a member of our community. It's part of The Hub we call What We Want.
Probably stiffer penalties for these kids who think doing all these threats are funny.
Okay, so start with Senator Perez. Your response?
I think it has to be a comprehensive approach to children that are doing threats. For one thing, what I've learned in college is that before a youth enters middle school, they've already seen 7,000 deaths on social media, and so we really have to, really inculcate our children, the values. We have to teach the values of our children about, the importance of protecting our community and the impacts that they have. And so I think it really begins with education within the family, within our community. As far as stiffer fines, I think that's something that we need to discuss as a policy.
Thank you. Senator Blas?
Well, even with the rise of technology, one of the things that has not risen and has continued to be a mainstay is basically the responsibility of parents. And, the stiffer penalties, it's one thing to be able to say, okay, the child's going to go off to DYA and do it. But what was the parent's role and the responsibility or the lack of for them to go down that road? And I think that one of the things we need to look at is basically stiffen the penalties against, for parents who don't heed their responsibilities to be parents.
Okay. Senator Duenas, thank you.
Nick, it starts at home, but your kids spend most of their time in schools. When I was a director of youth affairs, we had the Youth Crime Watch. I'm not sure if it's still active. I know that the DARE program has now come back into our schools. We really need to make sure that it's a curriculum to let these students understand really, and in their young life, the effect of these kind of threats and the things that they do to the entire community, but most importantly to their education. I think the other part really comes down to if the fines get increased, you know what? Those kids probably aren't going to have the money. The parents are going to be paying those fines. So it might not be a bad idea, and they'll probably have to work it off with their parents. So fines might be a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Payne.
The discipline for the children starts at home. The parents have to take up their roles and apply the discipline necessary to make the kids understand what's good and what's wrong. We cannot keep condoning, yes, son, yes, daughter, I will get this for you. Make them earn it. Make them realize what's wrong and what's right. Start at home. Punishment may not be the true end results of what you want to teach to them. Punishment is not a good way of doing it.
Thank you. Candidate Quintata.
I think it should be a collaborative effort between the judiciary of Guam, the Guam legislature, but I believe that there should be an increase in the fines, especially in crimes versus the community. We're seeing a lot more of those are happening, and a lot more parents are not being held accountable for some of these acts against a school grounds, a bus stop, could be a library, but there should be an increase in the fines under that particular statute.
Okay. Candidates, thank you so much for your response to that community question. Let's hear from another voter.
What can they do to help that Micronesian community?
What can they do to help the Micronesian community? Well, they can do a lot of things. They can, you know,
because we've been seeing what, racist, I can say racist.
All right. Hate crime is the reality of the world we live in today. We'll start with you, Senator Blas.
Well, first off, one of the things that we should pride ourselves is that we're a melting pot, and it's always been for us to be able to accept everybody into our home and as family. You know, granted that some individuals may have a hard time assimilating into the culture, but there has to continue to be a discussion on how to be able to bridge that gap culturally so that we can learn to accept them. I mean, 30 years ago, it was the Palauan community. Today, it's the Chuukese community. We've learned how to be able to get to bridge those gaps. We must continue to be able to do so.
Okay, thank you. Senator Duenas.
You know, Nick, one of the things I got to say is, first of all, I think whenever we go to most of the small businesses and the places that we visit daily, I want to say that the Micronesian community is so well represented in terms of the work that they do. The problem is that when we have the problem areas, it really kind of highlights, you know, the negative aspect of what happens. So I really think it's important to work with our churches, our nonprofits. A lot of these folks from Micronesia really do integrate into the Baptist faith, Catholic faith, and other faiths. I think it's really more about more conversations with leaders and faith-based organizations to expand greater appreciation for one another.
All right, thank you. Candidate Payne.
I totally agree with what Chris just said, but the major player in this community resolution to the acceptability of the other cultures is our mayors. The mayor's council, they know what goes on within their village. They know what's happening. We need to have them go out and appeal to them to please do the right thing, understand our culture before you proceed in doing whatever you want to do. It's not touch and go or do what you want. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gumatauta.
I spent the last 11 years teaching at the University of Guam, and one thing I can say for sure is, and remind everyone, that Guam is the big city of Micronesia. We are part of that. We are not some separate entity. Every single community, whether you're Palauan, you're Marshallese, whether you're Chuukese, Pohnpeian, you're part of this community. It's important for all of us to remember that first. And second, we have to do a better job as a society to think about what the contributions that each and every person has towards the greater good of it. Go to any village right now. It could be your mayors, could be your churches, but they're contributing in great numbers. We just have to remind each other of that.
Okay, thank you. Senator Paris.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have language access programs within our agencies so that they have access to resources. I think also, again, you know, inculcating that value of respect and especially appreciation of our diversity. I mean, if anybody's experienced FestPac, you know, that was such a beautiful event. We got to see the culture, the richness of cultures, and I think that's what I would like to reinvigorate here on our island.
All right, candidates, thank you so much for your response to that community question. Now to another question from a voter.
What's the deal with our hospital? We're talking about the location right now. Tamuning is out of the question, I guess. There's a lot of different opinions going on where it should be. We have the governor fighting for one location and where it should be. We have the legislature fighting for another location. I think at this point, it's just, who cares? We got to get that thing built.
Okay. We got to get a new one built, that's for sure. So we'll start with Senator Duenas, your response.
First of all, I want to say that amazing work happens, particularly at GMH every day. The nurses, the doctors, everybody who's trying to save the lives of our people is so critical. It's the hospital. It's the actual infrastructure plant itself. I'm going to say this right now. It doesn't look like the 37th is going to resolve this. Anyone who gets reelected in the 38th Guam legislature, this has to be a top priority. Lock yourself in the room with the governor and don't come out, legislature and governor, until you figure this out, because it would be a disservice to continue this. This has to be resolved in the next year or so we can get that hospital built.
Thank you. Candidate Payne.
My take on it is fix the hospital. Stop playing games. You're playing with people's life when you do that. Fix the hospital so that our people can be treated properly and recover from their illnesses. Building the hospital is down the road. Work on it. We need to build a hospital, but work on it. Fix the hospital first and most. That's it.
Thank you. Candidate Gumatauta.
We have to fund and support the GMH sustainability plan. You have to go and to Public Health in Manila, a historic building that needs to be renovated right now so that it will allow more and more services to our people. And then we need to build a hospital in Tamuning. It absolutely is critical. The amount of infrastructure that's been put in that area for the last 40 years. We need to continue to look at ways to make that footprint maybe a little smaller, but we need to do a lot more with what we have. And yes, fix GMH right now.
Thank you. Senator Perez.
Yeah, the way I see it, there's two possible solutions. One is, working with government lands, and that requires a lot of the legislative consent. And what really that entails is open dialogue. Let's put everything on the table. Let's discuss it. I think that's what the legislature has been asking for. The other angle is, of course, the private approach, which is, I believe, what we hear is happening. Purchase of private land, but still, the funding, if it's going to involve taxpayers' money, the legislature is still involved. So, it's a matter of open dialogue and getting to a solution.
Okay.
I've always taken, and I continue to take the position, before you wanted to decide of where the hospital is going to build, what kind of hospital you're going to be built. You're going to fix your infrastructure right now. Because if you don't fix the infrastructure right now, what kind of infrastructure are you going to place into a new facility? The southern residents, they still have time and distance tyrannies in being able to get services and get up to the hospital. The hospital itself, patients have to bring their own linens. You've got workers, you've got nurses and doctors up there that are doing the best with what they have. Fix the infrastructure, fix what you've got before you decide on where you want to build next.
Yeah, it's more than just the people that deserve it. It's also the workers. You're all right. Thank you so much for your responses, candidates. Let's keep the energy up and the questions coming. These candidates get a final round here on The Hub when we return.
The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam. The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
Elected to make and change laws that govern what you do. This is your Decision 2024 election show, The Hub. Now, candidates, it's your time to shine. You each will now get a final 60 seconds here on The Hub to speak to the voters. So make it count, and we'll start with candidate Payne.
People of Guam, my fellow brothers and sisters, please, I need your vote to try and help you. I'm not a businessman. Nobody sponsors me. I will do everything I can for the good of the people that we can all be proud of to preserve our culture. Ikuturan samoru ta proteyi itaw ta proteyi todo basta niman kumbalatsi ito to sa nizung dale amdu antay mamalo midung.
Thank you. Candidate Gumatauto.
Well, first off, thank you, KOM, for this great opportunity to be able to speak to everyone. Economic development, crime reduction, elderly services, and focusing on the family, that's what I'm all about, the priorities. And this program we didn't have enough time to be able to share our ideas, but I do have a website at seangumatauto.com that you can read more about what my priorities and a little bit more of a deep dive into them. But I'm here to serve this community. I'm bringing experience to this particular role to a third branch of government. I'm really excited about that opportunity. So I'm going to ask you all for your vote. I'm number 7 on the Republican side of the ballot. I'm Sean Gumatauto, and thank you again, KOAM, for this great opportunity.
Thank you. Senator Perez.
Hafa Day, my name is Sabina Perez. This election, I humbly ask for your support to continue to build upon the work of sustainability through economic development that integrates environmental protections, community development, and expanding our education to support these initiatives. I am committed to practice or use my tool belts, whatever's in my tool belt, which includes my experience as a medical technologist, science teacher, diabetes researcher, and now a senator, to address many of the issues that challenge our community today through a holistic approach. I humbly ask for your support to create a sustainable future for Guam. Please vote Sabina Perez, number 10 on the Democratic ticket. Suzu's Masi.
Thank you. Senator Blas.
Well, first off, Rick, thank you to you and to KOAM for giving us this opportunity. And for the people of Guam, thank you very much for taking the opportunity and the time to be able to watch us present our platform and who we are to you. Right now, as we talked today, housing costs are up, food costs are up. hospitals in disrepair. We need more ambulances. Our schools in disrepair. I think enough is enough. I came back into politics because I wanted to continue. I wanted to help our people, overcome a lot of the difficulties and the strifes that we have to endure. We've got looming over us. We've got a military buildup. We need more participation by our government on how that is going to be able to help be a win-win for not just the Department of Defense, but for the people of Guam. We need to build a new hospital. We need our schools built, rebuilt. There are many things that need to be built. We've got to stop the infighting. I think it's time. Enough is enough. My name is Frank Blas Jr. I'm asking again for your continued support on number 13 on the Republican side of the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duenas.
Nick, thank you and KUM for this opportunity. And as much as I like you as a person and a broadcaster, I have to say, KUM, the best segment that you had was when the people were asking the questions to us. It was my favorite experience today with you and with KUM. People of Guam, once again, I'm Chris Duenas. $1.3 billion. When was your government so flush with cash? But where are we spending your money? I want to tell you that when the pay raises went into Department of Education, which were absolutely necessary, federal funds for schools was used. First thing I did was introduce a bill for $20 million. And my colleagues here helped me return that money to the Department of Education to help our children and to maintain our schools. When we had the hospital come down and tell us how dilapidated things were and the conditions were, they were $30 million in arrears. My colleagues, once again here, and I'm sure the other candidates would have done the same thing, we passed a bill to give that $30 million to put GMH back on its feet. I want to concentrate in the 38th Guam Legislature to make sure you're getting the value for your tax dollars. Re-elect me, Senator Chris Duenas. We'll do good budgeting and serve the people of Guam. I'm number 8 on the Republican side of the ballot. Jesus Masi.
Candidates, thank you so much for your responses and really speaking to the voters and making it count. And you can make it count by hitting the polls this general election on when?
November 5th.
November 5th, they know. And now you do too. Catch us here on The Hub next Wednesday to hear from more of your senatorial candidates. And now available on KUAM's YouTube channel and Facebook page, watch the candidates for Guam Delegate in the KUAM News 2024 Congressional Debate. I'm Nick Delgado. Remember, you can always visit KUAM.com for all your election coverage. Stay safe and we'll see you soon.